So were beginning to be built there, and if you know about that time period, the Great Train Race was happening, and so people were trying to build one railroad across the entire country, and Chicago was the beginning of this railroad. All of the people came from Chicago, all of the resources, materials came from the city, and so that made Chicago even bigger. In 1871, however, there was a huge fire. As you can see with this picture, or maybe you can't see the wall, but most of Chicago was made from wood. Because actually in the north, in Wisconsin, Minnesota, the main industry was timber. And so they brought it all down to Chicago, built this very large city, but then most of it burned because it was wood. The story went that an old lady was milking her cow. The cow kicked the old lady. She fell back into a lantern, thing for fire with the lights. The lantern fell, huge fire, spread everywhere, and Chicago was no more.
Bad call.
But then, I guess there's a phrase in English, with lemons, make lemonade. So that's exactly what they did. They decided to rebuild Chicago, actually because it was necessary, because of the railroad, because of the industries. But they decided not to make it wood, but stone and steel. So actually in 1885, Chicago was the first city to build a skyscraper. It was only 10 stories tall, but it was considered to be the world's first skyscraper. And now, that's what Chicago looks like now. So yes, we should talk about. So this is Chicago. Other names for Chicago are Chi-Town, the Windy City. Some people argue the Windy City has two meanings. One is that yes, it is very windy, especially in the winter, but also because of politics. Politicians will say one thing, but they will do something else. They'll go back and forth. So the population of this actual city is about 2.5 million people. The surrounding area is about 9 million people. So it is considered the third largest city in the United States. It also has the fourth largest GDP in the world. GDP is gross domestic product. So the amount of money that this city itself makes is the fourth in the world. It also has the second busiest airport in the entire world, O'Hare International Airport. So it's very easy to get to this city because everybody goes there. With these pictures, these are just pictures of what you could see in Chicago. They have their own bridges. It's not like this rarely happens. Usually they're down, but then on special occasions with boats, they will go up. And then these two pictures just kind of show the mentality of Chicago. Chicago has also been known to be one of the hot spots for protests. When people in the United States do not like things, they go to Chicago, and people riot and protest and go on strike. Actually, right now, there is a problem with teachers. Lots and lots of teachers in the United States are very angry about pay, about work, and they're actually protesting right now in Chicago about this. But there has been several protests. But then, besides the protesting, Chicago is also a very calm and nice place. It's a good place to go to relax and just enjoy yourselves. You have all the same things as you do in New York, but it's just a bit quieter, less people. All right, some of the most important places, if you do go to Chicago, that you would want to see. As I said before, Chicago is located on Lake Michigan, so there's a very, very long coast, and actually most of the places that are famous are along this coast. And there's a very famous road called this road, Lakeshore Drive, and pretty much everything you want to see. You just have to go down Lakeshore and you will see it. The first place is called Navy Pier, and it was not built for the Navy, even though in different parts of Lake Michigan we do have Navy bases and boats, submarines, things for the Navy are built, but this was built for fun. There are several theaters, children's museums, lots of things for kids. It also has a year-round carnival, so you get a lot of fun, carousels, and then in each of these white domes is actually an expo center. So during Christmas, they make a little Christmas village. During the summer, they have different just events going on, and it's actually one of the most, I guess, loved places in Chicago. Another place is the Shed Aquarium. It's one of the largest aquariums in the world. It was built in 1930, so it's fairly old. That actually makes it another historical place in the United States. It has about 25,000 fish. 25,000. But then the more important thing is it actually has whales. They're very small whales, but this aquarium contains whales. And then, so with these pictures, this obviously is the entrance, this is the middle part, and then this whole back part is for aquatic shows. They have dolphins, they have seals, they have just a lot of, and I think they have 3 or 4 different types of dolphins. So, a lot of fun. And then, actually, that's the other aspect. They have 5 separate exhibits. And then, so the exhibits, one is about the Amazon in the rainforest, so you'll see all the wildlife, or the aquatic life from the Amazon. You will see all the aquatic life from the Caribbean. You will see, then they have another area called Waters of the World, so you'll see the most important types of fish and aquatic life from the world. And then they have another wild reef, so it's based more off of the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. And yes, the water shows. So if you're interested in fish, this is the place to go. Then another museum, if you're interested in more, I guess, old things, dinosaurs, prehistoric things, and even the history of humans, is the Field Museum. And I know when I was a kid, I loved dinosaurs. The Field Museum has one of the largest collections of fossils of dinosaur bones. It also has the most complete, I guess, bone structure of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. You guys know the Tyrannosaurus Rex? T-Rex? This guy? He's there. There's just also a lot of just old mammals. You have woolly mammoths, saber-toothed tigers, and then you also just have crazy things people have made throughout life, and mummies. If you want to see American football, this is one of the stadiums to go to, Soldier Field. It's also one of the oldest stadiums, but people in Chicago love American football, and they go crazy. As you can see, these are buildings, and they're celebrating a game.
Is that made by people?
Yeah, people did this. These are just lights. It's like, all right, we have a football game tonight, go Bears. And as you can see, the stadium is huge. Thousands and thousands of people go to these games. And, I mean, I'm personally a Packers fan, so I hate the Bears. But if you're in Chicago during the fall, it's a good thing to do. They're insane. And that's what they look like, and that's the team name. So, I was showing you, I guess, day activities. Chicago also has a nightlife. They're not as boring, just with museums and aquariums and kids stuff. You have clubs, you have bars, but then another famous... And if you're more into sports, and especially paintball, there's a little town outside of Chicago called Joliet. I don't know if you've seen the movie Blues Brothers, but okay, then I won't even bring that up. But in this town, it has one of America's largest paintball fields. It also has a place for skateboarding, for BMX biking, for rock climbing. But I am a paintballer, and if you end up in Chicago and you also like to play paintball, I suggest going to this paintball park. There's about 12 or 13 fields. This place is huge. And in the summers they have big games where about 300 people play for 2 days. It's insane. So moving on to the next state, Minnesota. So you can see the flag is a bit more colorful and lively, but that's because there's not much more in Minnesota. The Minnesota flag, so we have, you see a lot of stars. And then actually with their slogan, it's in Latin, and it stands for, where are we? Star of the North. So for a long time, Minnesota was the northernmost state until Alaska became, until we took Alaska from you, I think. Or you gave it to us. But Alaska is now the most northern state, but Minnesota for the longest time was. And so they're very, very proud of that. And that's why you see lots of stars and such. Minnesota, I gotta actually mention that. Illinois is known as the land of Lincoln because Abraham Lincoln was born there, and they're very proud that he came from that state. Minnesota is known as the North Star State because they're very proud that they're so far north. Yeah, I don't understand why. Okay, so in this picture, it actually just depicts what is going on in Minnesota. There's a lot of agriculture. The Mississippi River runs here, and so there was also a lot of water transport. Minnesota was created, or was built in 1858. That's when the state was actually created, so it's a very, very young state. It's actually the 32nd state in the Union. And then 1893 was when they actually made the flag. So, yeah, America is very young. All right, we'll talk about that. With these pictures, this is a loon, the state bird. They're very proud of this bird because it's only in Minnesota. It's actually a very beautiful bird, and it makes a very interesting noise, call. And then most of northern Minnesota is woods. Most of southern Minnesota is prairie and agriculture. And then Minnesota is also known as the land of 10,000 lakes. And so, get some lakes. There are about 10,000 lakes. Some famous things about Minnesota. Bob Dylan. Do any of you guys know Bob Dylan? Please say yes. You guys know about Bob Dylan?
Yes,
no?
yes, yes.
We're getting old. But Bob Dylan's from Minnesota. You guys know Prince? Prince, or the artist formerly known as Prince.
Okay.
He's from Minnesota. He's more into pop. Bob Dylan is old classic rock. Prince is hip-hop, pop music. He's kind of like Michael Jackson. He's the Michael Jackson of the North. So I guess Michael Jackson's from Detroit. Actually, speaking of Detroit, Detroit is also, or is known as the city of funk and soul. But the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, also had a very, very large funk and soul industry, also because of the Great Migration. when the Africans moved north, they moved to Chicago, Detroit, and the Twin Cities. And then, a little outside of music, Minnesota is also known for the Mayo Clinic. It's one of the best medical centers in the world. They specialize in very, very specific and I guess some of the most dangerous diseases and problems people have. And so if you can't find a doctor in your own country or your own city who will help you with cancers or with just very bad things in your body, if you go to the Mayo Clinic, they can help you. And they also do lots of just medical research, and it's something to know about. So, with Minnesota, from those pictures, actually also like Illinois, there's only really one city in the entire state, but technically it is two cities. You have St. Paul and Minneapolis, and together they make one city. It's a very rare thing that happens, but so St. Paul was created in 1849, and then Minneapolis was created in 1867 as separate cities, as actually separate towns. But then they got bigger and bigger and bigger, and now they're together. And technically the downtowns, the centers of each city, are only about maybe 5 miles, 10 kilometers away from each other. So it's an interesting thing. And then the reason why I chose these pictures is they do look very, very different. And Minneapolis was a Scandinavian town, so people from Sweden, Norway, Finland lived there. St. Paul was a German town, so mainly Germans, and you definitely see it, you feel it. And I'm both, so I like both of these. And then the reason why I chose this picture is because of these two people. And just showing, not much is in Minnesota, but the people there are very, very, very friendly. I mean, if I guess the Midwest is called the Heartland of America, Minnesota would then be the heartland of the heartland. They just like to have fun. There's a lot of joking. Actually, a lot of very famous comedians have come out of the Twin Cities as well. Alright, sites in the Twin Cities. A stereotype of Russians is that you love the circus. No? But one of, I guess, supposedly the greatest show on earth, Barnum and Bailey's and the Ringling Brothers Circus, happens quite often in the Twin Cities. When I was actually very little, I went there yearly or annually, and as you can see, they do a lot of very, very crazy and interesting things with elephants, with tigers, with lions, with clowns, with cannons. I mean, there's lots and lots of people. None of you really look like you are. There's also a very interesting place to go called Fort Snelling. And this was before Minnesota was actually a state. They put this fort here to protect the white settlers from Indians, and also to stop Indians and the French from trading. And so they put this fort on the Mississippi. Now it is a historic, I guess they call it a living museum. So if you go to this place, it's not only a fort like Peter and Paul Fortress, but people actually work and live there. So you can see how Americans lived in the past. Also you get to shoot guns, which is very cool. But they show kids life. They also have lots of these houses have been converted into workshops and little museums, hands-on museums that you can touch, that you can do things. And it just shows you how Americans lived in the past. So, if you're into animals, the Twin Cities also has one of the largest zoos in America. And it's not like, I guess more zoos are now like this, but what's special about this zoo is that when it was created, it was the first like it, and what they did was, instead of putting one type of animal together, they would put, I guess, the habitats. They would not make a cage for one animal. They would make a habitat, or an area for many animals. So if you want to see a lion, you will go to the region of the savannah. And so you will see lions, you will see giraffes, you will see rhinos, you'll see everything. And they get very, very close, which is also very cool. So like I said, this zoo is huge, and there are 6 themes to it. One theme is Minnesota, because it's from Minnesota. And actually there are quite a bit of animals that live in Minnesota: bears, moose, wolves, deer, more and more. The North Trail, so animals that live in the northern parts of the world. Also they have a tropics, and the tropics, I could not find a really good picture of it, but it's this huge indoor, there's a building out here, and it's a very large indoor area, and it's like you walk through a jungle, and around you are birds, monkeys, everything. Another thing that the Twin Cities has to offer is the largest mall in America. It happens to be called the Mall of America. It has about 520 stores, not to mention its own amusement park in the center of it. It also has its own aquarium. It has a place called Legoland, if you love Legos. I know when I was little, I loved Legos. And it's pretty much its own theme park for Legos. And they also, thanks, we'll get to that, but these are just pictures of the actual mall. I mean, it's absolutely huge. This is the actual mall. And then one special thing, the reason why this mega mall is in Minnesota is Minnesota has no sales tax. Do you guys know tax? Do you remember tax? Money you pay to the government is tax. And so in Minnesota, everything is cheaper than the rest of the country. And so clothes, food, everything is cheaper. And so that's why this mall is in this state. And then the last thing that they're actually doing with this picture is that they're adding more to this structure, more to this building. They're going to build a 500-room Radisson hotel, and also put in a Mayo Clinic next to this mall. And for the kids, they will also put in a Nickelodeon universe. So they have Legoland, an amusement park, an aqua park, and now Nickelodeon universe. So literally, you have everything in this mall. And then I brought this up because this is a very interesting restaurant where it's called the Rainforest Cafe. Everything is styled like a jungle, like the tropics, and it's just very fun for kids. And actually, with this picture, you guys know Snoopy? You know Snoopy? You guys know Snoopy? Hmm?
The name of the dog?
Yeah, Charlie Brown and Snoopy. The theme of the theme park, of this amusement park, is Snoopy. And so, like, if you go to Disney World, you will see Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. If you go to this amusement park, you will see Charlie Brown, Snoopy, Woodstock, the whole crew. Okay. So I guess if the city is not what you like, there's a lot of nature in Minnesota, and one of the most famous places to go for nature is called Boundary Waters. It's located in the northern part of northern Minnesota. So it's way, way, way in the north. And it's called the boundary waters because literally we have the United States on one side and Canada on the other. So it makes a boundary. This place is 4,400 square kilometers. I mean, it's huge. And for those that don't know moose, that's a moose. You'll see lots of those up there. You'll see bears. You'll see loons. And what most people do here is camp. So you can just get on to a canoe, ride it to one of the many, many islands with your tent, and relax. So the last state is Wisconsin. I'm keen on this state because I'm actually from Madison. But like the flag, the people were very proud, but we're also very modest and very straightforward. So unlike Minnesota that showed the flowers and all this stuff, we have a miner and a sailor. The miner represents we work on land, the sailor represents we work in the water. And when this flag was made, they did not know we would also be making submarines, but Wisconsin is also the state, right about here, where we make submarines for the Navy. But we also had a lot of farming, mining, Navy, and industry. Yeah. And then, actually this is a very bad picture, but we're also very proud of our state animal, the badger. You'll see a better picture of that from the university. And our logo, forward. Because we like to actually create things. But outside of Madison and Milwaukee, this is what you will see. You'll see a lot of farms, a lot of hills, a lot of cows, and a lot of cows. Lots of beautiful nature, and also lots of lakes. Minnesota, actually, Minnesota says, or they call themselves land of 10,000 lakes. They're very proud of this. They put it on their license plates. Wisconsin, we have 13,000 lakes. So we have more. We'll give that to Minnesota.
What is written about the flag?
Forward.
Forward.
Forward. Because we're always creating things. We're not, and actually I'll get to that. We're not only agriculture. Wisconsin actually creates a lot of different things. But yeah, it's forward. This is the date that Wisconsin was founded, 1848. So yes, we're also still very young as well. But oh, and with the previous pictures of the states, I just had the breakup of the counties. With Wisconsin, I kind of wanted to show that Minneapolis, St. Paul is here, Chicago is here, so all like the important cities are around Wisconsin. Wisconsin is now actually a very large tourist attraction. We have lots and lots of things in Wisconsin, especially because of Chicago. But they all come to us. One thing that was created in Wisconsin was Harley Davidson. It was created, or it was, the company was founded in 1903. That was the first bike. Yeah. Literally a motorized cycle. A motorized cycle. But now we're more famous for, or Harley Davidson is more famous for choppers. This is a new version of a chopper, but they're kind of going away from the old style. This was one of the more famous American Harley Davidsons of the 60s. Motorcycles that my uncles and my father loved to drive. But yeah, these are the guys themselves. Two more things from Wisconsin. They make the largest cranes in the world. They actually have, I mean, this is a person. That's the crane. That's the same crane. So I mean, you actually, in order to build this thing, you need another crane to help build the actual crane. And they're insane.
What are the cranes used for?
Usually mining or building skyscrapers. The really, really tall skyscrapers. Yeah. And then Kohler, the, I guess, plumbing appliances. So sinks, bathtubs, showers, also some electronics, or I guess electric generators are made in Wisconsin, in the entire country. So when you get that together, you get a lot of very smart people and very fun people in one spot. The nightlife, even though Madison is very small, the nightlife is wonderful. There's a lot of music. Most famous musicians travel through Madison. And also, that's kind of more because of the history. Yeah, I didn't know. You guys don't read that. But Madison, like Chicago, and actually Madison's a bit more intense, they also love to protest. As you can see, they're a little bit more straightforward about the protesting, and we get a little bit more emotional. Back in the 60s, actually, rewind. The University of Wisconsin, also like the University of Chicago, in order to get money for the actual universities, they would use the government. And the government would pay this university, as well as the University of Chicago, to do lots of military research. People realized this, people found this out, and so they went, actually that, you can't really see here, but there's a building here where they knew that the research was happening, and they blew it up. And one person died in this explosion. It was a janitor, a person who cleans, and also just showing the spirit of Madisonians, people who live in Madison. So this one person died. The mother of this man was talked to, and they asked, "Oh, are you sad? Are you angry at these people who did this?" And she said, "No, no. I'm proud that these people did this. Yes, I am sad. My son is dead, but I'm proud that this building is gone." So Madisonians love to protest. Yes, and then the city itself is just also very homey. It's located between two lakes, and so it's very, I guess, unique in that sense, because it sits between an isthmus. So when you have two lakes, it sits between an isthmus, and also, I guess this picture, but there's about a mile walking street of only bars. So yeah, and that's actually what this says, places to go for beer. It's huge. And this picture is actually the picture of the university. The university itself is its own town, pretty much. About, I think, 50,000 students go to this university. So it's amazingly just huge. All right, and then that's a badger. Before I forget, that is a badger. That's also the mascot or the animal of the university. In the past, it was a cow, but they decided to change it to a badger. The other city in Wisconsin that should be known about is Milwaukee. Do you guys think this is a strange name? So it's also Native American. It's actually the name of a Chief Milwaukee. But there's really not much in Milwaukee. The baseball team of Wisconsin is there, and if you are if you're in the Midwest during the summer, one of the best places to see baseball is Brewer Stadium. I mean, the Brewer, and actually the baseball team is called the Brewers. A brewer is a person who makes beer. So the baseball team is named the Brewers. They do not win often, but the people who go see the games just love baseball. and they love their team. So it's just a very interesting experience, I'll tell you that. And then what makes it more interesting is the Miller Brewery is literally across the street. I mean, I don't think you can see here, but so there's a highway here, and literally the brewery is on the other side. So Milwaukee is more known for its parties. So that in Germany you have Oktoberfest. Milwaukee is also a very big German town, and so they have their own Oktoberfest, which can rival Oktoberfest in Germany. I think it's crazy. And then also they have Summerfest. It's America's largest music festival. It happens for about 3 weeks? 2 weeks. 2.5 weeks. Everybody, all types of music, all types of musicians, everybody goes to this. And it's actually also very, very cheap. But it's closed on Monday. Another place, more for family fun, is the Wisconsin Dells. It's this small town in the center part of Wisconsin. This is actually what it's named after. This is called a dell. When you have a river with cliffs on both sides, and then these rock formations in the middle, you have a dell. If you're interested in nature, you can take a tour of the dells, but what Wisconsin Dells is more known for are the water parks. They have, so this and this are both hotels with indoor water parks, and there are about 6 or 7 hotel indoor water park resorts. There are also about 5 outdoor water parks, including Noah's Ark, which is America's largest water park. So if you're interested in water parks, Wisconsin Dells is the place to go. You could probably spend about a week going to all of these different places. But if you end up going there, Noah's Ark is the place to go. If you're more interested in just architecture, Wisconsin also is known for a man called Frank Lloyd Wright. I don't know if any of you know of him, but he was around in, he died in 1956, so he was around in the earlier part of the 1900s. And he created lots of just very interesting modern buildings. But this building was not made by him, but a person who wanted to be like him. And so he built it in the style of Frank Lloyd Wright. But there's a story behind that, but we won't get into this. But the place is called House on a Rock, because it's on a rock. But what makes it interesting is inside. I mean, it's a mansion, so it's huge. And every room has its own collection. And collections of this, I believe, are dolls. These are organs, so the piano, the organ. There's another room with violins. Another famous thing is it has the largest carousel, an indoor carousel, and you can go on it. It also has outside metalworks. So that is a bird, but it's made completely from steel. So there's even, and actually I think that stands maybe about this tall. So they're huge. And then one other famous thing from this is, you can't see it from this picture, but on the other side, there's a very, very long walkway that goes out into nothing. And it literally looks like it goes forever. So if you're interested in architecture, this is a very interesting place to go to. Also more nature. There's a place in Wisconsin called Door County. And if this is Wisconsin, Door County is the thumb. And so this is more for adults who are just looking for a very quiet, calm place to relax, see, I guess, old America, where you have just very calm-looking buildings, nice little quiet towns, beautiful scenery, lighthouses. You're into that thing. But then what they're also really famous for are cherries. And so lots and lots of people from Chicago, from the Twin Cities, come to Door County to pick cherries. And they're supposed to be some of the best in America, but I don't eat cherries. Also what happens in Wisconsin are two of the largest, I guess, events in the States. One is the Iola Car Show. I mean, this Iola is a very, very small town in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I think only 300 people live in this town. But then, every July, it turns into this. And you get thousands and thousands and thousands of old cars, of every type of old car. So if you're into American old cars, this is the place to go to. I mean, these are all cars. Cars. I mean, my favorite kind of car is a B's, so I put that picture up. But then also in late July, so when this is ending, this begins. And in another town called Oshkosh, which is actually fairly large, they have the largest air show in the world. I mean, people come to this place from all over the world to show airplanes, to do stunts, but also to buy and sell airplanes. Everything happens in the Oshkosh air show. Moving on. Since I talked about the Bears, I also had to talk about the Packers. If you think the Bears fans are crazy about their team, Packers fans are even crazier. They're very well known for this hat. It's called a cheese head. Most people in Wisconsin have one. Yes, it's embarrassing. But also one thing about the stadium, this is, I think, the oldest stadium in America. Actually, you guys don't know anything about football, but when we have our Super Bowl, the trophy is actually called Lambeau Trophy. And it's from this guy, one of the greatest football coaches in America, or I guess in the world, American football. And the Packers have actually won the most Super Bowls out of everybody. And they're actually they were one of the first teams to start playing American football. So in Wisconsin, American football is God. I have some friends on Facebook who, when you see religion, they say either the Packers or Lambeau. So, but another interesting thing, the reason why I have this picture is, I guess not just the action, but whenever a touchdown, whenever they score a goal, the football player jumps into the crowd. But what's more important is actually just the relationship that the football team, the stadium, and the people have together, is that the Packers are the only team owned by the people. So every other football team has, I don't even know what you call them, but I guess the team manager or the team director, and then they own the team. They spend all the money, they buy the team, they buy the players. The Packers, the actual city of Green Bay, the people who live there, bought the Packers. So they have a say in what players should be bought, what players should be sold, what should happen to the stadium, and so it's all controlled by the people, which is actually very interesting. And just on a side note from that, so last year, the football teams actually went on strike. They said that they were not being paid enough, which an average football player gets paid maybe $2 or $3 million a year, but they said they were not being paid enough. But so all the other teams said, okay, we will not work. You need to pay us more. But because these guys do not have a director, they're already being paid enough. They said, oh, we will play. And they won the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And so because they won the Super Bowl the previous year, all the other teams did not want them to win 2 times in a row. So all the other football teams said, okay, we will play. So the Packers do not win. Yeah. American football. Crazy times. So, this last bit. Another aspect of showing you guys the Midwest, especially these regions, is because there are lots of summer camps. And there's a tradition of American summer camps in America. But one thing I actually am trying to do for next year, you guys, is do a summer camp in America, where we go to Wisconsin. We actually go to an American summer camp. We will have our own English camp in a summer camp, but you will interact with kids. We will go to many of these places I just showed you, and yeah, if you're interested, let us know. But yeah, that's the Midwest. Hope some of it was interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We good?
So, you said there are zones, for example, savanna zone where there are many animals together.
Yeah.
And,
That's in the middle. And so they have the conventional animals, so the lions, I guess animals from Africa in the center.
Can we see how they hunt
No.
each other?
No. They separate that.
Separate.
They do not do that. I think in they made something down in Florida with with Disney World, where they actually do that. But it's better to go to Africa to see that. Yeah, I mean, with the Minnesota Zoo, the main thing is that the animals are actually around trees and rivers and lakes, and the meat eaters, the carnivores, meat eaters, and the herbivores, the plant eaters, are separated.
You said about car exhibition, where all the cars are shown. Are they for sale or just to show?
For everything.
So
I mean, for a lot of them, actually, they have different sections. And then so you have cars for show, you have cars for sale. There's actually a whole other area just for parts. So if you want to just build your own car, or if you buy a body, actually you can go to one area, buy a body, just the shell, and then go to another place, buy all the parts, and you can make your own car. Yeah, if you like American cars, that's where you need to go.
And how much are they sold for in average?
I don't know. I never looked into it. I mean, like the average shell of a car, depending on the car, but you can buy it probably for $100. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the car. You interested?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever visited an American Oktoberfest?
Yes.
Yes.
A lot of times.
That should not. Yeah. That's not for you guys. That's for you guys.
I'm not old enough.
Hmm?
I'm not old enough.
No. You're not old enough in Russia, and you're definitely not old enough in America.
I know that in Germany, people usually wear national clothes on Oktoberfest.
I was debating of putting a pic. That's why I showed actually the picture of Oktoberfest with that man. I mean, when the other part of the Midwest, of more I guess Wisconsin and Minnesota, is that they're very proud of their history and of their ancestors. And so yes, with Oktoberfest, lots of people dress up in lederhosen. They have the instruments. It's Germany.
They buy it and they have it at home. Suit, national suit.
Yeah.
And every year they
Yes. And even I found some pictures of little kids wearing these costumes, and they look so angry. Because in America, nobody wears this anymore. But because of the German history, the parents put the kids in them, and they look, yeah, they look cute.
Is it good looking clothes? National clothes. I saw in Bavaria, in Germany, in
Yeah.
Munich, it is so unstylish, green and red. This наружки, тут по-русски.
Shoes and stripes.
Those here it is dots, here it is lines.
Yeah. Yes. And the very, very short shorts and the funny hat. Yeah. People wear it. I didn't wear that. But lots of people. Oh, it's usually older people, but yeah, they wear it. They're proud of it. Actually, that's the funny thing, is that they're proud of it.
And do people, are people dancing? Yes?
Yes. And actually, the reason why I say that is that so Wisconsin is mainly Norwegian, Germans, and Polish, and so we don't just dance like that at Oktoberfest. We dance like that a lot. The polka. Do you guys call it the polka? Polka.
Yeah.
And when you do the yeah. Not a polka. You want a polka. More questions? Any of you interested in the Midwest? Or do you still want to go to New York or LA? Right. No, but if you're more interested in the actual, I guess, American experience, it's better to go to the Midwest, especially the places where I just showed you, because there's, I mean, if you flew, I guess, into Chicago, and then decided to stay in Madison, Wisconsin, Minneapolis, St. Paul are about 3-4 hours drive. Chicago is 2 hours. I mean, everything is very close, and so you can see all of it. If you go to California, California is huge, and you probably will not see half of what you want to see.
Is it expensive to travel from Chicago to California? It is far enough.
It's not very expensive. I mean, and now I do not know the prices of gas. So I mean, like when I was younger, I would take trips to California, to Montana, to Colorado, and it's not very expensive. And actually, this summer I want to do summer camps for kids. But if that works out, I would also like to do, I guess, not really summer camps, but some sort of experience for adults, and take adults on like a road trip around the United States. And so,
Which way can you commute? By train?
it's by usually car or plane. Right now, America, we have some trains, but nobody uses them. And we're trying to have more people use them, but the governments, I mean, even what's happening in Wisconsin right now is that they're trying to make a train from the Twin Cities to Chicago. And they started to talk about it, I think 5 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, and still nothing has happened. And so I think with the price of gas going up, trains will happen. The push for trains being used will be there, but right now it's usually car or plane.
Have you ever played paintball, and do you like playing paintball?
That's why I brought that up. It's because I love paintball, and I've actually been to that park several times. During,
Do you like it?
especially, I mean, and where I lived in Wisconsin, we have our own paintball field, and actually most places in America have paintball fields. But the special thing about that is during the summer, they have big games. So you go for the weekend, and for 2 days you play paintball. and it's not just on one field; it's the whole place, and like between 200 to 500 people will go
Without any break, just
without any break.
non-stop.
You start Saturday. You start Saturday morning. You finish Sunday evening.
Crazy.
I mean, there's places to camp and to sleep if you don't want to play, but if you wanted to play for the whole weekend, you could be playing paintball for 2 days. Yeah,
Okay.
it's crazy. Anything else?
How about weather there?
The weather. During the summer it's hot. During the winter it's cold.
Like here.
Like here, but it doesn't rain as much as St. Petersburg. I mean, and Chicago, Wisconsin and Minnesota get a lot of snow in the winter. Chicago does not get much snow, also because it's a huge city. But during the summer, I should know Celsius, but it's between like 65 to about maybe 90 degrees Fahrenheit, so 20s. And with Wisconsin, one problem, but since we have 13,000 lakes, it's not a problem. It gets humid and it feels very hot, but then you just jump in a lake. And the lakes aren't polluted. You can fish, you can swim in any of them.
So they clean, yeah.
Yeah, they're very clean. That's another thing we're proud of.
You have too many lakes there, but is it true that people prefer to swim in swimming pools, but not in lakes?
Not there. Because we have the lakes, we like to use lake. I mean, that is more with people from New York or California, where they think, oh, nature, it's dirty, we can't be part of it. But that's the other thing about the Midwest is we're city folk, but we're also country people, and so we know how to build the biggest cranes in the world, but we can also go into a lake and actually swim. So yeah, you get everything. I don't want to be racist, but the one group of people who I noticed that only use swimming pools are black people, but they're more afraid of being bitten by fish. And honestly, actually, what has happened now in especially Wisconsin is that because of the Great Migration, you had lots of people move to Chicago and to the Twin Cities, but now because of the recession and the depression, there's not much work in these cities, so now they're coming to Wisconsin because there's work. And so I'm pretty sure most of these African Americans are actually people from the big cities, and they don't know about lakes. Anything else? Time to enjoy Friday. Do you guys have school tomorrow? Yeah? Okay, I guess you can't enjoy Friday. But for everybody else, have a good Friday night.